I don't know if you have heard recently, but a certain small game has been getting just a little bit of attention lately, and by a little I mean just casually sitting on the top of the Steam charts. Palworld is a game often described as Pokemon with guns, or as I like to call it, your favorite slavery simulator. Because in this game, we do not limit ourselves to just catching animals, we catch humans as well. And rob them of their rights, and make them work for you. Just like real life. But one might wonder, why does it work so well? After all, if you look at every part of this game individually, then you see that the game is not really original. Catching animal has been in Pokemon, building bases has already been in too many games, and gardening has been invented by Stardew Valley. So why does it work so good? Modding. And the lack of it in many modern games. So in the past few years, the developers have been more and more protective over their IPs. They're realizing just how much money a live service can bring you if you create an enclosed system. You move the sense of progression from a game at the battle pass, which seems more like a second job at this point. This locks the player into one game about which they start to complain. The company only gradually starts making quality of life changes while spending too much time creating too many skins or other useless content in the process. Sounds familiar? To get back to my point, the only major games that have an active modding community are Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate 3. Now let's take a look 15 years back. You've got Portal, Minecraft, Dota, Counter-Strike, Skyrim, Terraria, and more, some of which originated as a mod in the first place. That's right, without mods there maybe wouldn't have been any League of Legends, Counter-Strike, or the entire Battle Royale genre in the first place. Because in case you forgot, Warzone, Fortnite, PUBG and Apex all have been inspired by a mod for H1Z1. Now comes the question, where does Palworld come into play? Palworld looks to me more like an experiment than a fully made game, or in other words, as if someone booted up Pokemon with too many mods installed. You see, the problem with big companies making expensive games is that behind big expensive games is a lot of money. And if the game is not popular, then the money is just gone, which makes it harder to get funding in the future, which means that big companies can't take big risks if they want to stay afloat. Besides taxes and death, there's one more unavoidable rule.
The more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Because of modding, people can figure out what works and what doesn't, a luxury that big companies just don't have. Palworld seems to do just that. They just see what is fun and put it in the game. Shooting is fun, put it in the game. Farming and base building is fun, put it in the game. Slavery is fun, put it in the game. In addition to that, you can set up your own server with mods that are already available for this game, even though the game has been released for only a month as of writing this. This is the very thing that Nintendo and the Pokemon company have been fighting forever. There have been many instances where entire fan games were DMCA'd and modding communities shut down because Nintendo did want to have control over everything. We saw the exact same thing with Genshin when it was released back in 2020. People claimed it was a Zelda knockoff, but it was different in just the right places to satisfy the right audience. As myself, who has never touched Breath of the Wild but has too many hours sunk into Genshin. Modding is also important because we often see unfinished, half-baked games that run poorly. And this includes the last couple Pokemon games, which make it almost impossible to play them on anything else than an emulator with a ton of mods, if you have any kind of self-respect. 2 months after Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was released, there were already mods that enabled to emulate the game in 4K 60 FPS on PC, which were not even possible for the Switch in the first place. The same goes for games like Cyberpunk or GTA, where modder fixed the long loading screens we were used to, so allowing your players to have more freedom is unsurprisingly a good thing to do. After hearing all of that, you might think to yourself, why are you standing outside my window? And also, why should devs be forced to create modding tool? Well, it's not so easy. Liam, many devs, including Nintendo, who will lock your family into some basement across the country if you only think about modding their games, have been cracking down on modding. Capcom, however, any competitive game that's not made by Valve, the list just goes on. Bethesda even tried to monetize modding, even though it's the foundation of their buggy titles. Too many devs have some anti-cheat or DRM system in place that will fuck you over if you fiddle with the game even in the slightest. I am not saying we should remove anti-cheats, but maybe allowed to use mods in custom servers. It worked for GTA and its big role-playing community. And the fact that Palworld is getting all this attention only shows that people are desperate for iterations of already existing games and concepts such as Pokemon. I hope that in the future, more companies will allow for modding and fuck around with the mechanics themselves. I don't want to see Battle Royale number 23 or third-person story game number 69 every year over and over. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Ubisoft. I mean, modders are sometimes literally doing the dev job, so both sides would benefit from that after all. Tell me what you think about modding and how you like Palworld in the comments. See ya!